project Digital Art in Croatia from 1968 to 1984 consists of several parts, several mediums. The book in English, both English and Croatian edition, are published, and exhibition it's taking place right now, and website, extensive website is as well part of this project. With this project I tried to map for the first time beginnings of digital art in Croatia, and there was one criteria that at least one part of the process need to be digital. Here we see a robot, one of the first, if not the first one, a robot that was constructed 1961 to 1965 when it was publicly presented, and actually it had one little part that we consider as a digital because there is an old telephone relay that consists of the software program in binary code. But as this piece is not meant to be art, it's more like showing off interest of the group of Kuberneticians who construct them. And back then they were studying, there were students at University of Electrotechnics. They constructed because of curiosity and public display. This robot gave away leaflets. Even they've been like faking with audio transmission that he's speaking. So they've been doing some kind of jokes. Somebody was hidden, and but nevertheless, this robot had a certain amount of autonomy. In eyes are photosensors, and that makes a robot moves toward a bigger amount of light, so it had some appearance of autonomy. In the first public display, the hand lifted flyers, propaganda flyers, in Zagreb Art Fair. Okay, but when actually the digital art started in Croatia, it's interesting that it was triggered by art and culture. Unlike in other parts of the world where digital art mostly starts spontaneously by the sides of scientists who try to make some kind of other creative use of computers. Back then, there was the access to computers were very limited and hard to get, and that's situation all around the world. We are talking about Cold War times, and back then, same as now, the information is a power, it's a weapon, and we can see within this context that in position of Yugoslavia, it was kind of lucky position because, for example, this computer PDP-8, which back then was a very, very powerful computer, American. There is no way that Americans back in 60s will deliver such a computer in any other, in any Eastern European country or USSR at the time. So there's no way they will, because it was considered as a weapon, same as today. The power of information and speed of processing information as well, speed of microprocessors nowadays, it's same story. So within the context of 1968, the group of art historians and from Museum of Contemporary Art today, back then it was called Gallery, Zagreb City Gallery, they start to contact different scientific research centers searching for the people who are using visual research in their scientific work. And visual research is a very key term of the New Tendencies movement that started 1961, that same people been promoting for years. Instead of using the word art, new tendencies use visual research within art context. So they used Gestalt theory of different kinds. They tried to join art and science, and as such, they have been part of a widely spread network of around 300 participants from all around Europe, both Eastern and Western Europe, as well as South America, and later even USSR and North America. It was a huge network, and they made several exhibitions promoting sanctification of art, rationalization of art, demystification of art. There was not anymore artist as a genius, but instead they preferred teamwork that achieve better results. And they've been kind of last maybe try of the modernist movement. They truly believe in science and technology that will propel world into better direction. Unlike later generations, maybe significantly with the year of 1968. So this movement just operates on those two in the historical moment when those two big paradigm shifts start to change. When we as a world start to enter information society as well, in the other hand. So new tendencies movement start in 68, look for computers and visual research in order to continue their investigation in visual research in art from previous years. Then the very first work was created during such a visit, where on such a teleprinter, you probably have it, in such a teleprinter there is a punch, not card, but punch tape. And Ivan Picelj, artist and as well designer of New Tendencies posters, he made handmade collage of such a perforated tapes, and that's this part. And upper part is T4T4, standing for Tendency 4. And this visual, which is actually here is applied at the poster 1969, but visual is made in 1968, and I consider it as the very first artwork made by using digital technologies. It's a hybrid. This artwork is hybrid in its nature, as most of the art from digital art, it's hybrid. Because actually, when we talk about digital art is non-material, and even the screens and every other prints are materials, and digital art, if we're talking in depth, it will be immaterial, it will be in code. Here are a few documentation of Tendencies 4 and Tendencies 5 exhibition, when first digital art in Croatia was presented. Vladimir Bonačić met Ivan Picelj, and with this same visual that I just described, that it was used for the poster, together they made electronic object, T4, the same image as applied in the poster was made as a dynamic object with blinking lights, including on the upper part where is a static T4, that was animation, something like LED animations in the commercial displays that we can see all around. There was an international show. We can see documentation here, as well as catalogs and Beat International magazine. There were 9 issues of Beat International magazine dedicated to computers and visual research, and their theoretical frame were information aesthetics of Max Bense and Abraham Molz. The later, Abraham Molz was a prominent participant in Tendency. He moderated many panels and symposia here and made a lot of presentations and participate in person in a lot of activities. Those 1968, the first exhibition took place, the first little one, part of tendency for series of manifestation that spread over a year during 1968, 1969. And Vladimir Bonacic, a scientist turned to artist, took a prominent place here. Also, he was one of the winners of the prize. He displayed his artworks. Here is the one actually very same piece, this relief. It's the very piece from 1969. The electronic object is from it was exhibited in 1974. Vladimir Bonacic made his PhD in hidden data. So he was very advanced in physics, and he was in his scientific work using visualizations of Galois fields, and Galois fields are very complex algorithms that are used for pseudo numbers. They generate a huge number of numbers in long sequences, and such a visualizations we can see here on this electronic object, when in this rhythm of 2 seconds, the same image will repeat in more than 300 years. Pseudo-random is a topic that Bonacic took for all his art productions, and later, and he criticized using of randomness in digital art. He stated that humans are better in randomness than machines, but machines we can use for what machines can do better than humans. And he had the idea that in visual perception of such objects, people will have some cognitive insights as a part of aesthetic, or maybe merge both in one. Here, this series of prints, digital prints, are from his later period. They are from '84, and he was joined with Dunja Donacija and Miro Zimmerman in BCD cybernetic art team. As such, they produced several educational courses in Jerusalem, where they led art and science department, and within this department they made something which you can see here, very important in the global scale. They made first digitalization of Arab letters. We can see the application of such digitalization here, also next to Hebrew. But okay, they made digitalization of the Hebrew as well, but not the first one. Somebody made it before. So, but okay, for the record, they made the very first digitalization of Arab letters. We can see 3 alphabets here. In one, again, typical Vladimir Bonacic design of using of Galois fields in poster design. Here as well, it's interesting detail that looks like a little bit like a glitch. It's the poster is 1975, and it's my guess that this may be the first digital typography glitch ever. I'm not sure about this one. Here we see Vladimir Bonacic making a statement about his art, and it's a great example how media artists or any time-based artist, including performances and whatever, can make some kind of for the future, like document that brings documentation of the artwork of some artworks that it's very hard to achieve in any other medium if somebody is not present at a time, at a place. So as we're talking about these time-based works of dynamic objects, he, in this video that was shot on 16mm film and then later transformed to digital format, as actually I found this back in 2006, where I was preparing a project for Neue Galerie in Graz and ZKM in Karlsruhe, and exhibiting his electronic objects, many of them after several decades. They've been publicly presented for those two shows. Here in Museum of Technology, we have luck to exhibit one of such objects, and there are around 10 objects at this moment, and as such they make a series of only operable electronic objects of digital art from the 60s, beginning 70s, also worldwide. They're in function now. Not all of them, but mostly they're in function, unlike other digital objects from the time, because Bonacic had great production possibilities within Institute Ruđer Bošković, which is kind of top scientific institute in the state, still nowadays. And the very great people collaborate with him on assembling such people. So the best people in electronics, software programming, Miro Zimmerman was his software programmer, and so on. So in long story short, they made something alike nowadays motherboards. So the work was calculated on these such a huge computers, and then they put all the algorithm in like electronics, and they built in such electronics in the objects, and that's why they are working now. And those objects are still operational, interactive. We can have several functions of interaction with all of them. Okay, and Vladimir Bonacic is a part of this, let's say, gallery installations and objects. He made a step forward toward democratization of art as he displayed such electronic objects in a public space. As part of Tendency 4 show in 1969, this installation was set in Zagreb, Kvaternik Trg, with longer than 30 meters light installation that was tricked by custom-made computer. Later he made several more installations in Zagreb and in Belgrade in such a scale. Miljenko Horvat was an architect, later turned into art historian, but all the time he was active as a photographer and artist. Even as part of his artist activity, he was member of locally well-known proto-conceptual group Gorgona, and Gorgona, as something like situationist, took like behavior as form of art. So knowing him as a painter, photographer, making decollages and such as things, and proto-conceptual artwork, is little hard to imagine that he was as well working on very, very different kind of works with computer graphics. Some of them we can see here. So this triptych +1 he made with Sergei Pollard from Zagreb 4, French artist group, in Montreal in Canada, where he lived and worked at the time, in beginning 70s. And those plotter drawings were used for cover of the magazine Canadian Data Systems, where there were possibilities to color them, unlike such an image were hard to produce, almost impossible in print, because one can change the ink of the plotter, but not such an image. It's almost impossible to produce. That's why artists use a lot of different printing analog techniques, as silk screen here. And here. And this one is, let's say, typical artwork from, computer artwork from the time. There are many very, very similar looking artworks, but I found here some great proportions and aesthetic details as he was trained this way. He's interesting in architecture, we can see here with the different problems of perspective. That's maybe a little bit not so typical. Another pioneer of digital art in Croatia, it's Vilko Žiljak, who is coming from different milieu, his physicians, scientist, turned into artist partially, and he became an expert in all kinds of printing, and he established many important institutions in Croatia about security of the print. His early works showing us his ASCII prints, and we can see a few originals here from 1972, and this series of works showing actually exactly the same kind of pictures, algorithms, but here using offset techniques that make it possible to produce such images. Tomislav Nikolić have two kinds of education. One as artist, an art academy in Zagreb, another one as in electrotechnical university. So it's some kind of maybe ideal education for people working with media art and digital technologies. He made his first public appearance very, very young as a student. He was 22 years old when he exhibited on Tennessee's 5, and a few years later we can see his further development in animation. This work, it's the very first Croatian digital film called Random, and later we can see a few more of his films. We are happy to have documentation of Nikolić's first show in 1975 in Nova Gallery, where we can see how he displayed hardware in the gallery, as well the way he showed slide projections with some complex system of flickering slides that were assembled by Vladimir Petek with special custom-made hardware running such as slideshows. So you can see all different kinds of possible outputs of digital art, and Tomislav Nikolić as well is good case study for approaching medium of representation of media art. Back then, in 70s, he appropriated from film world artist evening, so showing in the black box in cinema his computer films. This could be an artist talk and some other forms. In the gallery, he tried to do as best as he can, showing 60mm film, which actually require manual work to assemble it. Nowadays, it's much easier to showing it digital version that's running itself. And as well, he established one really interesting medium as artist talk as part of TV program. It was luck that he was working at Croatian television, national television, as a head of graphic department or something like that, and he, as such, as well, pioneer using of digital technologies in TV graphics. As such, he designed the very first animation, digital animation of Eurovision logo, which was before him shown as a static slide for Eurovision exchange programs. Several artists, including Mikulić and Čerić and Žiljak, use this system, which is 1130 IBM, that included a plotter that we can see here. It was time of using IBM punch cards, and this is storage for it, plotter, and I'm happy to work here with Museum of Technology that we actually exhibit both artworks and hardware that was used. The same system I used in my previous curatorial efforts in Neue Galerie and ZKM in Karlsruhe, where I try to exhibit as much as possible hardware. Nikola Sherman is a scientist, and while working on his PhD in late 60s, he had some hobby, fun, to take a rest of the work on PhD. And as a fun, as a hobby, he made a series of computer drawings using analog computer. He made commission to himself for imaginary artist that he will help one artist that instead of painfully hand drawing some complex mathematical drawings that he find that is part of contemporary art at the time, he offer his mechanical device and formula imagining artists that he can use in his work. As far as I know, no artist never used it, and in 1972, Nikola Sherman donate his drawings to Museum of Contemporary Art, where it was stored and never exhibited until 2006, where I took it for an exhibition in Neue Galerie in Graz. Why I'm mentioning this 2006 show? Because it was inspiring for Sherman to make a reenactment, to transfer to these algorithms from analog computer into digital ones. And that's what we can see here. Even he made just 2 steps of such a migration, we call it, of digital formats. The first one was using some very expensive and very specialized softwares, and the second step was to migrate such a data, the already digital data, into the accessible and free of charge softwares. So it had even 2 steps of migration for obviously democratization of art and accessibility. ASCII art graphics by Vlado Čerić are early examples of his artwork from 1976, and a part of this, around 10 graphics, he stopped his artwork for a decade or so, and nowadays he's very active in algorithmic art. Vladimir Neidhardt, an architect, traveled to United States and in beginning 70s and get in touch with MIT, where he met very first softwares for urban planning. Very shortly after his return to Croatia, with software programmer Boras, he designed a system for software for urban programming, and here we see the results of it. That's urban, it's called the software for Nova Gradiška and Petrinja, 2 small towns in Croatia. Nikola Tanhofer is a national hero of film industry. He is a film classic. Just everybody knows his 50s and 60s films. shoot in black and white, and this is just part of general knowledge. It's very little known or almost unknown that he was busy with computer graphics, but as a hobby. All these graphics we show here for the very first time publicly are made in a couple of months in the beginning of 80s. He was using that his own PC, personal computer, that he smuggled into Yugoslavia back then, Croatia, as until 1984, the official import for personal computers was not allowed for the citizens. Citizens could access in some quite open and free of charge centers, in multimedia center, even it was time-sharing computers in the 70s. It was very advanced for democratization of access to the digital technologies, but somehow not on wild scale. And that very year, 1984, it's because of this very reason, a part of this Orwellian sound, is the reason why I was closing date of my exhibition. Architect Andrija Mutnjaković considered mechanical and kinetic architecture since his beginning of career back in 50s. And he was designing kinetic architecture like a house as a flower, like that opens and closes, never realized projects. So he tended toward using of mechanization as following this known notion of building as a machine. Mutnjaković designed for Old City Hall, where he joined two buildings into one and made huge interpolation and renovation of the whole building. He designed several spaces using digital technology. Digital technologies were used in designing ground floors, or as well as in design of different parts of interior as covers for the wall and ceilings. In three rooms that are still in function today, where politicians had their meetings, he designed three different wall covers, let's call it this way. In the first one, it's relief wood made by wood, where he used methodologies of new tendencies of variations and permutations of the same motive, and after many visual experimentations he chose one and executed in this like 3D relief. In another room he print as a blind print into skin, leather wallpapers, that coming tradition from Renaissance onward. And there was a repetition of one kind of typical for a time, late 60s computer graphic in leather. In third room, there were variations, more than 100 variations, steps of transformations of two spirals. So digital graphic print as a silkscreen on ceramic plates. And those ceramic plates, hundreds of those ceramic plates were embedded into the walls, showing these permutations of one motif floating around the wall. So we see some kind of implementation of digital graphics into the 3D print of the wooden relief, into the blind print into leather, and silkscreen on ceramic plates. All three interesting mediums to use computer graphics of a time. Three-dimensional programming were used for designing ceilings at 3 rooms, and we can see here cross sections of the ceiling, and those cross sections we can see here as a plotter print. Those plotter prints obviously designed and executed by computer were enlarged, handmade enlarged, and realized in final material that are handmade and still there. So we are very lucky here in Zagreb to have all 3 rooms almost originally in original shape. It's 99% its original shape, and it's a rare example of this well-preserved computer-designed art, I could say, in the world scale.